What's up, Desktoppers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and I'm pleased today to be welcomed by Antoine Vaillant, Mr Olympia competitor, 1 week out of the contest, and also joined by a man who's helping him out for that contest in Dr. Dwayne Jackson. Awesome to have you both on the podcast, and this is a bit of a different one too, getting really like the athlete and not so much just their direct coach, because obviously you work with Dorian Hamilton as well, one of the owners of HD Muscle, but one of the guys that has a huge part of that and is super knowledgeable about the pharmacological side of things, the health prevention side of things, and all that sort of stuff. So firstly, Antoine, I'll welcome you to the show, and firstly, how's your prep going?
Prep is going really well, and to be honest, the last 3 days have been the hardest of all prep, but it's not too bad when you think about it, because it's like the show's almost done. But the first like 12 weeks was like, I didn't feel like I was in a deficit, even if I was. And because the first maybe 8 weeks, I was eating 5,700 calories, and my body was
5,700.
Yeah, and my body weight was kind of like staying the same, and my body was changing. So right now I'm at like 3,400 right now, and like I lost like weight pretty fast in the last 2-3 days, but now we're actually up some carbs today because we don't want to deplete too much. The goal with this prep was to stay fuller throughout the whole prep, not deplete as much. And now we're at the end, we're kind of pulling back on cardio and training volume to make sure that our body is fresh. So and the reason why this prep and the one before has been the best ever is because, of course, with Dorian Hamilton as my coach, he knows my body like pretty much by heart, because he would be able to guess, you're going to lose probably 1.8 pounds like in the next 2 days, and it would happen. So combined with his knowledge of my body and all the knowledge he acquired over the years being an excellent prep coach, combined with now Dr. Dwayne Jackson for this prep and the Vancouver, Chicago prep, it's like I can't ask for a better team to like guide me through this prep. So prep's been doing really well. No complaints there. And even this time around, mentally, I've been stressing less because I just know that we've just done it during the summer. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, my glutes are not going to come in. I would always stress about that since 2018, right? And then every last prep, they just come in, and the conditioning I had at Chicago was very good, I think. So now we're like aiming for the same conditioning, but with more fullness and being a little bit bigger and stuff. So prep is going well overall. No complaints there. As long as if somebody follows the plan and puts in the work, there's nothing else an athlete can do. You listen to your coach, listen to your team, and do what needs to be done to the best of your ability. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and it looks like you're doing that, dude. Like, by these recent photos, like, this was 2 weeks out at 270 pounds. So I assume at 2 weeks out, that's the biggest you've ever been, because the size looks not just noticeable, but incredibly noticeable. And had we not seen you earlier in the year, we'd be saying that you've put on like 40 pounds of muscle or something in a year. So it's absolutely insane. We'll get more onto that, but I want to introduce Dr. Dwayne Jackson to the show as well. And for those who don't know who you are and haven't seen you through like HD Muscle or anything like that, tell us a little bit about yourself and I suppose the role that you play in Antoine's prep.
Yeah, well, a lot of history there. So I was a competitive bodybuilder throughout the 90s and a professional motocross racer actually at the same time.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I competed all the way through university. I spent 13 years in academia, getting my education, and then stayed in academia for another 15, 16 years, I guess, as a medical professor at the University of Western Ontario. So over the years, I've actually just accumulated a whole heck of a lot of knowledge in this area, just being a competitor myself and going through the process of bodybuilding in the 90s raw. So, I've had all the bodybuilding injuries, the biceps reattached, the kidney transplant, you name it.
Kidney transplant. Wow.
Yeah. I had a kidney transplant 2 years ago. And so it was time for me to kind of unbuckle the seatbelt out of medicine and get myself into the real world where I can help my friends, get healthier, but not just get healthier, be able to perform better because of the increase in health that we've been able to, I guess, put together throughout these preps. So I'm working with a couple other professional bodybuilders actually that are going to the O in the background. One just pulled out actually, but it's really an honor actually to be able to work with an athlete like Antoine. He follows the rules. He doesn't divert from the rules, and it shows. I mean, we've taken him from, rehab to, the Olympia stage, where I think he's going to be a really good top 10 contender.
Yeah. And Antoine, that's something that as well with this Olympia, because it is such a stacked lineup, it is absolutely insane. There's no denying that the top 10, whoever fits into it, is going to be probably close to their all-time best or is one of those top guys. Now, your physique that I saw from last Olympia that you did, which was, I think was 2 years ago now, I was actually really impressed because I can't remember where you placed in the lineup. Where were you?
I was 14th place, and I was actually 269 the morning of the show, but it's weird because now I'm actually lighter, but I look bigger in a lot of the shots because I think my proportions are different. I think my upper body is slowly catching up to my legs, and I'm posing a lot bigger up top. So but I was 14th place. But the thing that's crazy right now is that if you're 14th place of this year's Olympia, you're right in the middle. So it's like 8th place at the one last year.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
It's very crazy, but I'm very happy that I'll be able to go at this Olympia because 32 guys. So everybody that's the best currently on the circuit is gonna be there. And looks by the progress pictures and the looks of it, everybody's gonna bring their A game. So we're really gonna see how we stack up in the world because everybody's there. Sometimes there's a guy in the top 6 who's not competing in the Olympia or whatever. Like Regan is not doing it for some reason. And there's some people like that in the past. It happened, but this year, no, everybody's there. Everybody showed up, so it's gonna be great.
And the only ones that have, you still got great bodybuilders that have sort of missed out in terms of Sergio Oliva Jr., but choosing not to actually try to qualify, and a bunch of guys like Steve Kuklo who could have competed more and stuff. So it shows that bodybuilding's in a really good place right now. And the physique that you brought to that Olympia a couple of years ago, I thought was a little bit overlooked, to be honest. I think I maybe even mentioned that in some videos. And I thought you could have been, a few spots higher. And it probably didn't get the attention because, down around 14th to 12th and stuff, fans, still interested, obviously, but not to the level of a top 6, top 8, top 10, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, obviously the Olympia is going to be nuts. And it seems like you've added that extra size. Now, you brought a really good package earlier in the year, and you actually took points off Iain Valliere, which is no easy feat too, being a 2-time 7th place Mr Olympia. Did that give you extra confidence? Because I felt like, your physique can be even better again. It looks like it's better again based off that look.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? I'm happier of getting a 2nd place to Iain than just winning Vancouver without beating him or without you know what I mean? It's the fact that some judges thought I was ahead or something. I don't know how the points work really, but it wasn't a clear-cut win. So just that, I was like, oh shit, I'm back in the game. So I did Chicago, and then I won that. So I was actually pretty happy that, he beat me after the fact, because I was like, hey, it means that, it wasn't a clear win. It wasn't a straight ones. So for me, it meant that I was part of the mix once again. And then I did Chicago, and that was it was not easy, but it kind of was. Because when we did the prejudging, they did 1 round, then the head judge put me in the back. He said, you're good. And then they posed everybody else. So it means that the decision was made pretty quickly for them. So that was, it felt very nice for me to be able to live that, I guess, and win. And so it was very good. So
it's got to be a good feeling doing a show like that, man, and then being put to the back. It's like, oh yes, I can relax. Finals isn't stressful, because I imagine between prejudging and finals is stressful.
They did it one time to Phil Heath. That I remember. That's it. So
the Olympia.
What's really cool about this too, Antoine, is the fact that for this Olympia, it's not going to be luxurious for anybody sitting at the back because of so many competitors. There'd be so many comparisons, and you've been doing an hour of posing for 5 days a week. We have to, Antoine,
Wow.
Antoine is such an amazing athlete that the guy, you know, he'll churn things out like day after day, where Dorian are like, dude, like I'm seeing you online, you're sweating too much. Like quit sweating. Like you got to tell him to slow it down. He's so I'm really excited to watch the stamina, to actually watch the athleticism shine through in both your routine and in the prejudging. That's going to be really, really cool.
Oh, I hope they make us do a lot of rounds.
I do too.
I've been getting ready for that, because a lot of guys, they will look good one round, and then they're fading.
Yeah,
it's not because they didn't carb up enough. It's because their body is not used to being exhausted and posing. Cortisol raises up. They can't hold the poses right. They're breathing heavy. All that shit. I've been practicing for the last 15 weeks, average 5 times a week posing. So I'll be ready. Like if of course it's always hard, but the thing is, when I'm exhausted, I can pose. So a lot of guys will have trouble. My heart rate can be 150 and I can hold the poses. So I'm really looking forward to because the thing is, if you're in between call outs, like if you're like between the second and the third, or the first and the second, you stay on stage an extra 2 rounds. Let's say if you're like a 5th or 6th on the first call out, sometimes they keep you there to compare you to the other guys.
Yeah.
So,
and you need to have that endurance then, because you're doing 2 lots call out straight in a row. And if it's Steve doing it and he moves you around as well, you're doing multiple rounds back to back on the stage after you've pumped up in those lights. It's like, it's harder than people think.
And I think Steve Weinberger makes the guys work usually. And if everybody's in shape, it's all the best. It will be a close Olympia. Everybody will be like in shape. So how are they gonna compare to people? Fucking making do rounds.
It's gonna be so exciting.
We'll see. I mean, I'm planning for that, because that's kind of like the worst you can expect, right? To do round after round. So so I've been posing pretty hard. Lately, we're just pulled back a little bit just because we don't want to burn too many calories and deplete too much. But my posing endurance is there, and I've been working with Carl. His name on Instagram is Wheels for Life, and he's been like every 5 times a week before his training. We go there, we pose, and then the most that we're doing, we worked up to 4 rounds in a row with holding the poses, including quarter turns. And to be honest, I don't like it. It's pretty hard, but I would stress about it after my cardio. I'm like, oh man, I gotta do these rounds, and so we would do that or alternate with just work on the routine and tweaking poses. So there's different type of posing practices. There's like tweaking poses. There's posing practices for endurance and stamina, and then there's a posing routine. That's like more the fun part.
Yeah.
So
sure.
So I've been wondering what's the most annoying thing to do as a bodybuilder at my level. I think about the other guys. It's not the diet. Everybody diets. It's not the training. Everybody trains hard. It's like the posing. People don't want to do that. So I'm like, this is where I'm going to double down and see if it makes a difference.
It's almost like the thing where sometimes like the exercise you don't want to do the most is the one you probably should do, because it's going to put the most stress on your body. Like no one wants to sometimes do, especially when you're tired and prep, to go do those deadlifts, do the squats, or do the certain things like that. And you don't want to do those extra things like posing, because it's like, well, is the routine judged? Like you can sort of make an excuse and justify why you're not going to do that extra little bit. But it seems like there's more emphasis on the posing now, which I think is a great thing, because Big Ramy, obviously, that first year he won the Olympia, he had the endurance, and everyone goes, that's what I need to do now. So I think it's really upped everyone's games. And because everyone's so big now, that I think it's harder to have that endurance. So you've got to actually almost work harder. So
yeah, it does. Like the classic guys can pose so much easier because they weigh, I don't know, like Bum said, it's like 230 on stage or whatever, maybe around that time. At 230, it's way easier to hold your poses. Because, for example, if you're doing a most muscular and you weigh 280 pounds of muscle, how much energy expenditure your body is going through to hold fully flexed 280 pounds of muscle? That's a lot of energy, way more than a classic guy that's 200 pounds, right?
Well, to put it this way, Antoine, like you're burning between like 600 and 700 calories in those posing sessions that you're doing, right?
Yeah, some of them I would like. The one where we practice the rounds, it goes up pretty high.
Yeah.
So it is very hard. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And Dr. Dwayne, you said before, like, you know, sometimes you have to tell Antoine, like calm down, slow down sort of thing. And Antoine, you probably had that sort of addictive personality, I'd say, because obviously you've been through addiction with drug addiction and had to go through rehab with that. You've obviously had the injuries to your physique as well, the bicep tear, all that sort of, or multiple bicep tears. Totally distracting. But man, like, so you've been through rehab with that. So you've been through really a lot in your life, man, ups and downs and all that sort of stuff. And you do have that addictive personality. And I have noticed people that have had addiction issues with drugs or whatever come into bodybuilding, and their level of, I suppose, just throwing themselves into it in every regard is almost mind-blowing. The level of dedication that people that have previously had addiction issues when they go into bodybuilding is crazy, and they will overdo it. Generally, I have seen it before. Is that because, do you think you almost overdo it or want to overdo it because of your just by nature addictive personality?
Well, I think it's more about the obsessive personality. Like if you have an obsession about something, because when I was a kid, I would practice martial arts, right? I played hockey, I played football. I didn't like it. I liked to go in the backyard by myself and repeating a certain movement for hours on end until I would nail it. I was already obsessed about certain things. So then that transferred to bodybuilding. It's like you go and then you just get obsessed about something and then you just try to do your best. It's like when you play a video game and then you keep trying to kill the boss and you keep dying and you try 50 times. Why the fuck do I try to beat that boss 50 times? But then when you fucking beat it, you're like, yes. Yes. So bodybuilding is like that. Yeah. You obsess all prep long, and then when you go to the finish line, and then sometimes it's like the placing is like it's just a cherry on top. The whole cake is the fact that you went through all that. It was hard and you did it. I just like that part where, and the more you get closer to the show, the more all I think about is like the next meal and what I can do so that day I'm at my best ever. It's like it's crazy, but to do that, you have to make sure that today is like is the most perfect possible for yourself. It's never perfect, but the most perfect possible. And then you finish it, and then when the day's over, all right, let's go to bed. And then you wake up, okay, let's do it again. And then you try to always like do your best, and then you try to see like where you can improve. So that obsessive personality is good when it's channeled right. But the thing is, if because when you like something and you're obsessed, you go full into it, right? But there was a part of my life that I really loved partying, and I really loved doing drugs. So what do you think happened? I was like, fuck, I'm gonna go full tilted to that. But the thing is, the consequences didn't come right away. But when they came pretty hard, this is when I couldn't stop, because I could stop bodybuilding if I want. But the thing with drugs and the instant gratification in the brain, it's a whole different thing. So the obsession combined with like instant gratification is actually really, really, really bad. With bodybuilding, it's the opposite. It's delayed gratification. You suffer now, you will reap later and be proud of yourself later. Drugs is like, no, I want to feel good now, and fuck later, I'll deal with that later. And then the consequences come, and then you fucking are fucked up later. So the thing with the obsession is that depending where you put it, it can be good, or it can be really, really, really bad. So for me, like it went really bad. Yep.
Yeah, and Antoine, it's really cool because like Antoine and I we bonded pretty quickly because I think a lot like him. I've got 15 years on him, so I've kind of learned my lessons the hard way too. And it's funny because pro motocross was one of those things. When I left it really effed me up. I had real trouble focusing on one thing, because being a professional athlete, as Antoine can well know, you've always got something to do when you wake up in the morning. And if you don't do it, then that thing you're obsessing about, someone's going to beat you. So you're constantly just thinking about that. And one of the big things that Antoine and I had to do, and I don't know if you remember this, buddy, when we first started working together, I'm like, you got to learn how to breathe. And what I was doing was trying to get him to be more present, because all that happens when you have an obsession to focus on that's keeping you from doing something else is you're given something that keeps you present. So you're not thinking about what's happening, 2 weeks from now, and you're not thinking about anything in the past, because otherwise, you know, on a dirt bike, you're going to crash and hurt yourself. In bodybuilding, you're just going to get diverted from your diet, and it's going to mess things up. And the guy like Antoine, you know, he's got that desire to win. And so you just keep focused on that, you know, that prize, and keep them day to day. And that's how we roll.
Yeah. And it's listening to actually both of you talk, especially Antoine, because you went pretty deep into it. I resonate with a lot of things like that. Like when you said going, you know, you'd go out in the backyard and practice a skill over and over, like how many times do you get it right? I remember even myself being young, I was very happy, like being on my own sort of thing. Didn't need to be surrounded by people all the time. And we have a thing called cricket here, where it's like a totally different version of baseball, but sort of just say it's somewhat similar.
It's cricket?
And cricket, yeah.
Oh, with the square bats, right? That you hit on the ground?
Yeah. So you basically you hit it on the ground, but hard cricket balls, and they basically, instead of throwing it, you know, straight, it hits the ground first and can deviate and all that sort of stuff. And but I used to get like I don't know if it's a tennis ball or cricket ball, and attach it to something, and then it swings around something, and I'm just out there hitting it for hours, like hours on end. And I think that sort of personality is drawn to bodybuilding because it's a discipline. It's something you repeat over and over again, and it's not an incredibly, I suppose you'd say, exciting day-to-day life to some people. But when you've got that goal and you've got that thing you want to do, whether it's gain muscle, lose body fat, do whatever, it becomes much, much easier to do. And obviously having a goal like competing on the Olympia stage or as a pro or anything like that makes the goal, or, you know, like in pro motocross, makes the goal a lot easier, and it makes it more of an obsession. And sometimes people have that thing, that post-comp blues, they call it. And it's because you're on such a high, you're pushing so much towards something, and then it ends. You've got an end date, you know what I mean? Unless you have something quick coming up afterwards, people get that. And I know people that have competed at the Olympia that have told me this. They said, you know, I went through depression after the Olympia, and it was such a high for them, but it was such a down afterwards. So how do you manage that, like the post-comp period?
Well, before saying that, I was just thinking that everything that you achieve that makes you really, really proud is something you're going to put a lot of reps in, pretty much. If you get something out of a fluke, like win the lottery, you're not proud of yourself for winning the lottery. It's a fucking easy thing. But you're proud of yourself when there's something you've been doing reps and reps and reps. And then when you don't want to do it, there's a drive making you do it anyway. And then you do more reps and more reps and more reps. This can be with writing. This can be with art. This can be with like just building a YouTube channel. You're going to put the reps in. Same thing with bodybuilding. And then once it's all said and done, this is one of the things that I find that I can feel the most proud of myself is when I'm doing things day in and day out that requires repetition and discipline. And then at the end, I've achieved it. Because there's not a lot of things in my life that made me proud of myself. And there's things that did the opposite with the drug addiction and all that stuff. I did lots of things that I regret, like that made me feel ashamed and guilty, you know, like lying and just being a bad person. But now, you know, with bodybuilding, I find it's like it does the opposite. And this can be transferred to anything in life. But to understand, to answer your question about after a show, the thing with me is because I've went through 5 rehabs, I was homeless twice, and I stayed at a shelter for a month. It's like after the show, you know, when it all said is done, I don't really get depressed because I have a perspective that's, I guess, unique to me. I guess everybody has their own perspective, right? But my perspective is that I'm pretty much grateful. I try to be grateful all the time. I try to see what I have also. I always want to have more. And I always feel like I could be better, which can be bad sometimes. But I can also recenter myself and be like, you know what? Fuck, better today than what I stayed at that fucking shelter 2016, you know, or because just in 2017 I was still homeless. I was getting food stamps for food, and I was on welfare. And then 5 years later, I'm doing the Olympia again. So, I mean, for me, it's like when the show's over, I just try to see what's positive about that. Try to relax a little bit to try to keep my blood pressure down because it goes up if I eat a lot of food. And I just work on the next goal. And I try to, you know, be nice to the people around me and try to catch up with the things I couldn't do on prep, like with my fiance. You know, of course, after this prep is fucking great, it's gonna be Christmas. So we'll do all kinds of like cool stuff, and I won't have time to be depressed. I don't think I'm a guy that gets depressed anymore, because I mean, my life is great. I got a roof over my head. I got food. I can train. I got my fiance. I got good friends, and you know, like everything's fine. So I think when the thing is, if you only have one thing, if you only have bodybuilding, and then you don't bodybuild, and that was the only thing that gave you some type of purpose in life, man, I get it. Why you would be depressed. It's like people, they go on tour, the musicians, they go on tour, they feel the high rush. Then they come back home, they got nothing. And then they try to compensate that with other things. That's why a lot of guys, they revolt to drugs. The drugs, very, very effective way of feeling good right away. Oh, I feel bad. I don't accept how life is right now. I want to make it better. Fucking snort something, eat something, drink something. Boom, right away you feel good. So, but the thing is, it's everything that's too good to be true is not true. It's not real. So all this drug shit is like it's fake, right? It will never give you a relief. It makes, for me, it made things worse. I was trying to get a relief. It made me crave more, made me feel more worse. So so what I suggest for people who have like the post-contest blues or whatever is that, man, maybe you're not only a bodybuilder. Find out who you are, like find another purpose, you know, and try to be grateful. There's a lot of things that are going on. You know, sometimes people are just focusing too much on like one thing, which is funny because I said I was obsessed, but I am. But I also know that this is temporary bodybuilding, and there's a more to it than that in life. But right now, it feels like that's all that matters, because I got a goal in mind. But after that, I'll deal with the day at hand.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not even stressed about it.
Antoine, you know, it's funny because when we first started working together, we didn't even know if you were going to compete again.
No,
we just started working together, and Antoine was in, you know, he was in a tough spot. It was mentally and everything. It was a real tough spot for him because, you know, he'd had a high calcium score for his heart counts, and him and I were really debating whether or not this is something that we can pursue. And, you know, with a lot of mental work really at the beginning and getting inflammation down and everything else, it was amazing how things turned around. And now, you know, I would pit us up against some of the healthiest bodybuilders in the world now, if there's such a thing, because, you know, we do bloods all the time. We're making sure we're watching blood pressure every day, and he's normotensive even in the last week before the show. So it's really a testament. You know, these challenges that you've been given, these are good things. This is what life's about. Put on your fucking helmet, you know, and ride out the storm, because when you come out the other end, you're a way better human being.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's why I also like the competing part. I just remember I was telling Dwayne N, I'm like, man, you know, sometimes when you have something, it's like you take it for granted kind of thing. So I was like, oh, shit. I was ready to like retire, right? Then we did some extra tests, and there was like things were like looking like, oh, maybe we can start prepping for a show. That's why I didn't tell anybody before Vancouver, because I was ready to stop, like you know, like some people do sometimes. But things just got way better. Everything just got better. So now I just was just saying, like, I just want to compete again. That's all I want. And then I did, and not only did, I guess I'm going back to the Olympia. So I'm very grateful. That's why, like, you know, I'm really enjoying all of this, because how many more years do we all have? How many more years do I have competing still? I don't know. I have no idea. So you got to be in the moment a little bit too, you know.
For sure. And obviously with the health issues, and like you said, you were contemplating retiring and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure now you're very thankful that you didn't, obviously competing at the Olympia and looking as good as you did. I was surprised, obviously, seeing you come back at that show, but also the way you looked. Because some of the pre-contest photos, I think because of the time periods, I was going, nah, you're going to be a little bit too small or whatever. You're going, nah, he's not going to be back to his full size. Blew me away, shocked me, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely eating my words for on that one. Now, in terms of doing that, I was like, okay, what would you have to done to look like that? And I was wondering, how's your health? You know what I mean? And that's what I think a lot of people were probably wondering. I heard, I don't know who I heard it through, whether it was you, whether it was other people talking about it, that your actual, PEDs and stuff was less than ever. Now, is that true? If you want to answer that or not, or
Yeah, for sure there was something that needed to be changed, because there's things that I did in the past that created the problems I had, and I think high blood pressure was like the main thing that was like bad, because I remember like there was one time I was like, oh, 170, 165. I guess the cuff is like not working well. Then I'm walking around, and then I took it because I didn't own one, so I would just take it randomly. Oh, what the fuck is that? It was after I tore this bicep, when I tried to like go up really high. I was like, oh, I gotta gain back some weight. So I went up to 330 pounds. So I wonder if that combined with like all the times I was partying, what my blood pressure was, probably did some damage. And so the whole idea was like, how can we like just make sure that what maybe caused that to not make it worse, right? And even improve. So there was a lot of things that had to change. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Dwayne can like go talk about that a little bit too.
I was about to ask Dr. Dwayne, like in terms of like, did you have anything to do with Antoine getting out of, I suppose, the drug situation, and then obviously getting back into competing? Obviously had a part to do in that. But was there anything in terms of potential damage from drugs or anything like that that you, I suppose, recommended or did differently because of that with Antoine?
Yeah, 100%. We when we first started talking, I got him off all PEDs pretty much, and it was kind of it was a little bit. I don't know if there's 100% trust at that point, and we kept them basically down to nothing for like I think we were down to like do you mind me? I'll just say we're recording it now anyway, so yeah, so we were down to like 300 milligrams of test a week for a long time, like up to 17 weeks out for Vancouver. And that was it. And the idea behind it was, I explained to Dorian and Antoine is that, after years of use, we want to make sure that, all these androgen receptors are cleared so that we don't have to hit these things with, a gram of test and 500 milligrams of tren and all these different compounds, but rather reap the benefit of, low dose compounds or relatively low dose compounds and really, really high quality diet. So the idea behind it was to really pump up the fiber and the polyunsaturated fatty acids in his diet. And people were blown away when he talked about how much chia seeds and fiber and whatnot he was eating and still does eat. But, that's increasing liver health, increasing blood lipid health, and keeping inflammation down, and being informed by the bloods, and then using those to guide the PED usage. That's been the magic behind what we've been able to create with Antoine. Dorian and I work very, very closely together. In fact, we're all on chat together every day. And basically all that happens is we take a look at the blood work every month, and then we make a decision whether we're going to push harder, we're going to pull back, or how it's going to go down. And to be honest, Antoine's health has been increasing throughout the year that I've worked with him. And his blood work is miraculous. The guy's got a GFR of 100. And most of the bodybuilders that are in their 20s that I deal with have one that's 40 to 60. So, and all of his blood lipids look decent. We're dealing with a little bit of low HDL right now, but that's life in the city with what we have going on. But as soon as we're done the Olympia, that's when my work really gets going now. Is my stuff's like the first up till about the last, say, 8 weeks. And then it's the time after we're done, me contacting him constantly saying, hey, what did you eat today? Why is your blood pressure and heart rate so high? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it makes me accountable for real, because like we have, like I said, like Dwayne said, we have a group chat every day that I send my check-ins to Dorian, and Dwayne is like sees everything, so he's always aware. And the main thing pretty much that I've done different is that now we look what's going on inside really often with blood work, blood sugar when you're eating a lot of food, and even temperature and all that kind of stuff. The thing is like I used to like do bodybuild blindly, which when I was younger, because I don't know, it wasn't a thing. In the 2000s, doing blood work wasn't like a thing, right? Because I started like bodybuilding in 2004.
Dude, I remember I got into bodybuilding literally pretty much when you did. So I was only, so 2004, I would have been 15 years old. And that's when I started going to the gym at 14, 15. And I remember, dude, I remember you when you were, before you were a pro, like putting out videos and all that sort of stuff. I remember following you, and I'm following you. I believe you got your pro card and all that sort of stuff. And then it was like you disappeared. But I remember how charismatic you were and doing videos with, I don't know if you were doing, who you were doing videos with. I remember the videos in Gold's Gym Venice. There was one, and you were foam rolling your legs. I literally remember that, and I put that in my routine back then because of that, because I have crap legs. So I was like, dude has good legs. I'm going to do whatever he's doing, you know? So
it's was the thing. John Meadows showed me his stuff with foam rollers. John Meadows.
John Meadows, yeah. I was going to say John Meadows, but I was like, was he with you then or whatever?
He turned pro, 2012.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Because I actually was going to say that, so I wish I did, because I would have sounded smarter. But yeah, it's cool to see your whole journey, man, like where you are now compared to where you were then and what you've gone through in between. It's something you can make a movie out of. So I absolutely love that. And it's cool to see where you're at now and what you're achieving. And I think this is, this isn't the ceiling for you. Finishing outside the top 10 in the Olympia, I don't think is the ceiling. And I think it's being overlooked just because of the Olympia lineup this year. But I think had it been last year and you're looking the way you were looking, I think, without disrespecting anyone in the Olympia last year, based on your look from a couple of years ago, I think you would have definitely been in the top 10. Or I definitely would have been predicting you in the top 10. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. I was. I
think you can still do it, man. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. I think I can. I believe in myself, right? But the thing is, results are decided by somebody else, judges, and they are in the future. So it's like totally out of my control. Like people say, "Oh, I'm gonna win. I'm a top 6 guy." Dude, you don't even know if you're gonna fucking live tomorrow. You go outside in the street. So I don't understand why people like make all these predictions. I mean, it's fun to do. Yeah. But as of myself, my fiance asked me like, "So, what did you ask me again? Tell me." You said like, "Where do you think you're gonna place?" I'm like, whatever. I don't really care, because it's like it's not even my decision. Yeah. The only thing I can control, like we've mentioned, that is the effort, my attitude, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And the thing about bodybuilding is, I think that bodybuilders sort of forget as well, if you look good enough times and are not getting the placings, you're going to get enough fan support eventually that it's going to be actually more beneficial you placing second sometimes, because you get more fan support and get more fans and saying, this is bullshit, Antoine should have won or whatever. And then you actually get more of a fan base. So if you keep coming back and knocking on the door, even if you're not getting the wins or not placing where you want to place, you're just going to get more fans anyway. So it's just about the look.
Yeah, I think sometimes, not that politics are a thing, but sometimes you look at somebody, and because you know who they are and where they come from, and you see the hype they have, there's like an aura that make them also part of why they are good, and that only can be built if you suit up and show up, right? Yeah. So the thing is, if you only do one show every 2 years, and for a long time I was like struggling to just be alive, so I wasn't doing shows. But now I think that the more time I'm gonna like suit up and show up, it's gonna be bound to happen that I'm gonna go up a little bit, right? I mean, that's what I think is gonna happen. But other than that, besides the day that you go on stage for 20 minutes, I'm doing the same thing all year, as the first place guy. You know what I mean? It's like we're all doing the same thing. It's just that one day, this is the competition, but the rest of the time, the lifestyle is there. And I just love what I do right now. And, and I'm just doing my best. That's all I can do. But I do believe in myself. And of course, I will visualize things. And it's funny. I thought about that the other day. I did say I won't tell Taylor, but I was like, I think of all the people besides Ian's wife, I'm the one thinking about Ian the most.
That's so funny, man. That's so funny.
I'm thinking like, even like when Carl makes me pose, he's like, okay, like he would name Ian, go to the side, Antoine, go this and that. I'm like, fuck, I gotta fucking hold this fucking quarter turn now because he's got a good quarter turn. So it's like, I'm grateful for guys like him, because it's like they made me push harder. So I just thought it was funny that I think of all his fans, of all like the people that's close to him, I'm probably the random guy that thinks about him the most.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did mention that because I had a feeling because you're both Canadian, you both competed in that show earlier in the year, you took points off him, so that's obviously a big deal because judges had you winning it, at least prejudging or finals. I can't remember the exact score. So it's like, if I was you, that's how I was thinking. I was like, I would be like, I'm chasing Iain because Ian's a 7th place guy. And if you can, get a few more of those judges on your side and maybe improve a little bit more than him or whatever, then potentially that could be a really cool battle. And Ian's thinking about Hunter, I think, because Hunter placed ahead of him. So everyone's trying to get to that next guy,
It's really...
Yeah. They give credit where credit's due here, though, also for you, Antoine, because here's what's really neat. And I've mentioned this on a few podcasts, and a lot of people don't recognize this, is that while Iain was eating protein and doing bench presses and squats and deadlifts, you were in like rehab and crack houses for a while there. Okay. Think about this. No, think about this for a minute, guys.
It's crazy.
Pro athletes, like, this is a game of fucking millimeters, right? The better you get, the closer everybody gets. Antoine takes a little fucking sabbatical, right? Does his little party trip, comes back, and we got him competed for the Olympia. And now everybody's talking about, is he going to beat Iain? Well, the way I look at it is you beat him already, because that's got to be going on in his head. Is it, I was eating 350 grams of protein every day, right? Antoine might not have been on those food stamps.
I don't think he's thinking about me that much. But that it's fine like that. Like you said, I think he's thinking about the guy ahead of him. Like, I'm not thinking about the guy that I beat. I don't, I beat him. I don't expect him to beat me.
It might be in the back of his mind a little bit, though. Like, I don't want to lose to Antoine being Canadian,
right? But I'm really grateful that he's a competitor and I'm able to compete against him, because, if you're just the best in Canada, it's like, I don't know. I like the fact that sometimes that you lose because it makes you work harder. So
of course.
So it's good like that. So I'm actually, and the thing is, we also we can't underestimate anybody, because anybody can show up and beat somebody, because we're just all people, all human beings, right? So in my head, some people, they underestimate me. And then what happened? I beat them. So some people underestimate me for this year's Olympia. I'm not in the talk. Well, chances are it's a possibility that I'm going to beat some people that didn't think I would beat them. So, but also, we need all the other competitors to be able to do what we do, right? So all the rivalry stuff, people talking shit. Sometimes hey, listen, if you were the only competitor, you would not even compete. You would not be able to do what you do. So for me, I'm grateful for everybody else doing the same thing as me, because it gives me a fucking sport to do.
Yeah.
Right. So we forget about that. So yeah, it's just to say that I'm grateful for all the other athletes. Keep showing up so I can have somebody to beat or be beat.
I want to ask one main question for you too, Antoine. Now, bodybuilding is like, they've done I'm sure you guys have seen it, the Washington Post articles and stuff like that have gone up. And the last one that went up was just, I think, yesterday. And they sort of went after some coaches and things like that and named people specifically, and obviously it's an attack on bodybuilding. Fuad's done a podcast on it talking about it just recently. And it is, something that's positioned right before the Olympia, all that sort of stuff. Now, bodybuilding, it seems like, in a way, in an indirect way, I guess you'd say, saved your life, through having something else to put your efforts into outside of drugs and all that sort of stuff. It's been a positive influence. And I'd say mentally, at least from what we see from the outside, it seems like you're in a better spot than ever doing bodybuilding, pursuing this and doing the thing you love. So I suppose, what's your view on that in terms of, bodybuilding being a positive or a negative? Because for me personally, like, I've been through some stuff in my life where, the loss of partners and stuff like that. And that bodybuilding is something that I went straight into. Like, the day after I lost a partner in 4 years, I was in the gym the next day, and, I was numb, but it was something that gave me some sort of a distraction outside of just dealing with it. So what's your thoughts, I suppose, on that? And obviously there are negative sides of bodybuilding. There are things that go wrong inside the sport, like any sport, but what's your thoughts on, I suppose, the negatives and positives of bodybuilding for you and as a whole?
Well, any sport that's a high performance at the highest level, people will go to the extreme. And, look at just UFC, for example. They get kicked in the head, for God's sake. So, but for me, as far as all the drama stuff, I'm like, bodybuilding is only positive for me. all the people doing the drama stuff online. I see this, I see that, this and that. I'm here in my gym at Pure Muscle and Fitness with the people I'm surrounded. I'm so far away from all the drama. I have to like ask my fiance to look at the channels and keep me up to date there because because I'm so far away from all this shit. You know, like sometimes the thing is, if you want to be part of drama, if you feel some negativities, maybe because you're on the frequency. I'm so far ahead of all that, all the drama and negative shit goes over my head, and I hear about it a little bit, but I don't feed into it. I don't try to I don't talk shit to people, you know. So for me is that bodybuilding is just positive for me. It's always been just positive from the day I started, because I didn't know what to do when I was like young, right? I didn't know where to go. I was kind of lost. I was kind of scared. I didn't feel like I was good enough. And training kind of like made me feel like this is what I need to do. I found something. So for me, it was always good. So all this stuff with the coaches, you know what? Everybody's flawed. We're all human beings. Some people are flawed in the acting world. Some people are flawed in the real estate world. Some people are flawed in the fighting world and the music world. Some random office that people work 9 to 5. People are cheating on each other. We're all human beings. Some people are going to make mistakes. Some people won't. Bodybuilding is not different from it. It's just that some people have different motives, maybe they want to bring somebody down. There's like a resentment going on. It's all stuff that I've seen before, because we're all human beings. But for me, as far as drama goes and negativity, I don't really feel it.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, Dr. Dwayne, you've been in it for the sport, obviously, for a fair while as well. And you've seen, obviously, you know, all probably the different sides of bodybuilding and all that sort of stuff as well. And we've seen negative and positive. But when I've sort of, I suppose, delved into other industries, or I've had partners that have been in this industry or that industry, or they're in this hobby or whatever, whether it's boxing, whether it's dancing, whether it's whatever, right? There is the same common things that we see in terms of the negative sides of bodybuilding. In boxing, I've heard and seen of corruption. I've heard and seen, obviously, they're doing, things to make weight, which is what, a dangerous thing for bodybuilding, but it's also dangerous for boxers and people that I've seen, and heard of stories that are crazy like that. So, and that's sort of not getting a huge, push against it, at least in that way, I suppose, like bodybuilding is right now. So what's your thoughts on the whole thing?
I left medicine for this exact reason. The ego has got in the way of the research so badly that there were things that, data that should have been pushed forward to help mankind that didn't go forward just strictly because of the egos that kind of, were the gatekeepers of such data. So it's, it's really refreshing working with Team HD, because we don't see this drama. Like, we don't focus on what someone else is saying or anything else. We just sit in the background, do our work, and, keep quiet about it. So it's, we welcome competition, as Antoine has put pretty straight. Competition makes us stronger on our team. And because we welcome it with open arms, it gives us defenses against any negativity, because we're not engaging in it. And if you're not engaging in it, then it's just like, thanks for your opinion, and you just keep on moving forward. And that's, Antoine has learned a lot through his struggles on how to do that, obviously, because people judge all the time, and they judge you whether you're, a Yale scientist, or if you're, a person just trying to make it in the supermarket, trying to, get on the tiller, be on the till instead of, a stock boy. So it's, it's something that we try to really focus on the things that we can control, and we can't control what people say. So it's lovely working with Dorian and whatnot, because he's a real class act too.
Yeah. And I think after a while, it becomes one of those things when people say stuff about you, or there's negative stuff written about you, or videos made about you, or all that sort of stuff. Because, people probably haven't seen too much about me, but there's been stuff where I'm in videos and it's a negative spin on what I've said or anything like that. And after a while, and, YouTube comments are brutal after a while, it almost, they come at you and they just bounce off. It's just like, I laugh at them. And I've actually had partners in the past that have been like, look what this person said about you. They're fired up. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, they said this about you or whatever. I'm just like, people are going to say shit, you know, they're going to get offended because you predicted someone somewhere and whatever, and then they go on a rampage. But I think after a while, it just becomes like it's, you know, like what you guys are doing in terms of saying, you know, we stay on our own sort of thing. We don't involve in it, don't get engaged in it. I think it's really cool to see because it seems like you all are sort of like a unit, and whatever comes your way, you're a team at handling it and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's really, really cool to hear. But Dr. Dwayne, I want to touch on a few little things before we wrap it up on, I suppose, your knowledge and getting our listeners a bit of info on what someone like an Antoine would be doing or should be doing in terms of some sort of preventative medicine type stuff or preventative measures. You mentioned about how healthy he's eating and all that sort of stuff. And I've actually done a prep before where I went into it actually after we got pregnant with my first child. I was, you know, eating for that and everything. I took a bit of stress off of the bodybuilding lifestyle in terms of the training, you know, just dialed it back a little bit, still training, but not pushing myself to a certain level where I'd be stressed or my body would be stressed. I started eating more off fuel, a little bit less protein, just health overall. And I was looking, you know, a bit downsized, a bit smaller. But when I actually went to do a transformation challenge, I ended up competing because my results were so quick. Like I started this thing, and it's going to be a 12-week transformation challenge, but there was, I think, 8 weeks or something, or 9 weeks later, there's a competition. And everyone says, "Oh, you're competing." And I was like, no. And I got 5 weeks out, and I was like, I felt so healthy, and my skin was good. Everything was healthy, and my body reacted amazing. And then doing things and trying to do things harder the next prep, I didn't look as good. Like I straight up just didn't. I looked more stressed. I didn't get as lean, as easy, and all that sort of stuff. So what do you do? Like you mentioned about Antoine getting really healthy in terms of, you know, where he's been, you know, first time in, I suppose he's the most healthy he's been, I suppose, in a long time. So how much of, I suppose, what are you doing and what are the measures and what are some actionable items that some people out there could, you know, do that are in, I suppose, Antoine's, maybe not Antoine's situation, but are competing, prepping, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So the first thing to do is get some information, collect some data so you actually understand where you're sitting. So blood work is number one. And, you know, we have a massive panel that we run every month. But if people go in and just get, you know, themselves, you know, their hematology done, so you get their hematocrit, CBC, that stuff all finished. So we know all the red and white blood cells are doing their job, and then get blood lipids as well as your kidney function, liver function, and then glucose. So HbA1c as well as fasting glucose. If we start there, that gives us a good picture of where you need to go. Antoine's diet has taken meandering, you know, into supplementation, like actual true supplementation, natural supplements, has taken meanders all along based on what we're doing in the in our blood work, what we're seeing in our blood work. So an actionable that every bodybuilder should be taking right away from this is get that fish oil, some good, you know, omega-3 triglycerides in them, high DHA, high EPA, you know, combined 3 to 6 grams a day minimum. Most of my bodybuilders are on 9 grams of combined EPA, DHA per day.
And you split that up through the day, like lots of 3 capsules?
No, we just take her all at once. You're fine with that. And then also make sure your vitamin D status is up, because if that's down, then you're going to have high inflammation. Make sure, like I said, you know, if your blood lipids are out of whack, you actually have to fight that with polyunsaturated fatty acids. You don't take the fats out. And then make sure your glucose is in check. And if you have your inflammation measured by HSCRP, your blood lipids relatively in check, and your blood glucose in check, then we can pretty much be guaranteed that we're not dealing with any metabolic consequences. And I'll tell you, I get blood work from, you know, hundreds of bodybuilders, you know, monthly, saying, "Hey, take a look at these." And 9 times out of 10, there's dyslipidemia, there's, you know, slight hyperglycemia, and then HSCRP is, you know, higher than we ever want to see it anyway. You know, it's, you know, up above 10, 11, 12. So that's kind of the essence of what we work with. From there, then obviously increase fiber, because that's the one thing missing from, and I can say that I can generalize and say missing from every bodybuilder's diet. We're taking in 40 to 50 grams of fiber a day right now. And a lot of people don't.
Added fiber?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Well, what types of fiber are you using? Because I know when I first started using fiber, I went a little bit too hard too quick. So I was obviously getting the involuntary like spasming and I was getting the stomach cramps, and it actually made me constipated. And I was like, up it a little bit more, and I was like, oh, I'm nauseous, like not feeling good. So how do you go about getting that much added fiber in?
Yeah, so it was a matter of getting gut health in check first, because that's what ends up happening is, you get the fiber in you, and then your large intestine gets all plugged up with these fibers that you have very poor microbiota in that large intestine, and then we're not actually fermenting them the way we should be. So Antoine has a massive battalion of supplements that I give him, but also the fibers, we make sure that we have pretty much an equal split between soluble and insoluble fibers, so that we're building bulk, but we're also creating a stool that we can get out of ourselves too.
Yeah.
But the idea behind fiber is really neat, because everybody talks about taking a shit, but really actually fiber is integral in sopping up all those excess estrogens that are in the body. They're really important for keeping cholesterol in check. So that's why, back in the day, it was all about oat bran. The point is that we want to get that LDL down and HDL up. With androgens, we have the opposite effect. So fiber becomes really, really important. And fiber is really important for supporting liver health. And, liver is one of those things that are really important in bodybuilders, not only because if you're taking oral steroids or anything like that, but rather when you're training really, really hard, GGT, ALT, AST, all these different markers of muscle metabolism are being dealt with by the liver. So overall, when we get an athlete like Antoine to fit all these, pigeonholes, and we get everything working together, it's a synergistic effect. His training goes up, his mental health is, much better. So he's focused and motivated every day. He, when he eats, he doesn't get bloated, and he doesn't get, spasming in the colon. Where at the very beginning, I remember when we first talked, because I do a lot of shit analysis with my with my clients, with my athletes. I remember at the beginning, I'd ask him what it was like, and it was kind of like soft serve ice cream for most of the time. So, over time, we just go through these processes, and we talk about it. Plug in fiber, plug in the fats. Protein is never a problem, right? And then we just keep an eye on all the blood markers, and then there's a couple other little tricks we have up our sleeve, and away we go.
Yeah. Now, you said you analyze a lot of people's shit. So are you asking them like, what's the consistency? And then they tell you, and you go, "Oh, that's not right." Like,
they're not mailing me a log of shit. And I'm like,
yeah, okay, I'm glad. Antoine comes over to your place and goes, "I'm done."
Yeah, and actionable. Go look up the Bristol stool chart, and then that'll help out a lot of bodybuilders to understand where their gut health is, because gut health isn't like a hippie concept. It's a real thing.
Oh,
and
of course,
a testament to this, right, is if you want your food to be going where it needs to go, then you better have the processor, working at 100%. And if it's not, then it ain't going to go where it needs to go. So really, you can pound the protein all you want, but you're just creating, more problems for yourself if you don't have all the rest of the components in check.
Yeah. And I think after you've been doing it a while, like, because I've been, doing this a while in terms of, competing sometimes, not competing other times, but you sort of learn your body a little bit. Like, I know for a fact right now, my gut is not in the best spot it's been in quite a while. So I'm having, like waking up in the morning, and when I normally do my apple cider vinegar and water, if I do that now, I feel instantly very nauseous, in my gut. And there's a few things like that where I'll eat certain things. I'm like, oh, like my gut is not good. So I know it's from numerous things, poor sleep, a whole bunch of stuff that I know I need to get on top of. But it's amazing when you are functioning well about the digestion. Like, you will eat protein and you actually almost feel like it's digested. And then when you're toxic, or when you're inflamed, your inflammation markers are high, or your gut's not good, and all that sort of goes together, I can almost eat protein and I feel like it's just sitting there. It's not digesting properly, and you almost know in yourself, this is not being utilized the way it should be.
Yeah. And just if your folks out there want an actionable for that, if you're noticing protein's causing an issue, which high protein diets are really tough on the microbiota. We know that. And so if they're not supplementing fibers and whatnot to try and, so prebiotics and probiotics to try and, uphold their gut health, get yourself some betaine HCl, take 400 to 800 milligrams at a time. If you can get one with pepsin in it, it takes that acid to actually activate pepsinogen, which is what breaks down the protein in the stomach so that it can be processed later on and be delivered as amino acids from the small intestine. If you take a blend of those two components, the betaine HCl and the pepsin, what you'll find is that protein digestion will happen much easier.
Yeah.
It's like night and day.
Yeah, and it's actually funny that the partner I was talking about that I actually lost, she actually had cancer, and part of her thing was doing these digestive enzymes and doing pepsin and a whole bunch of other stuff as well, and it was really focused a lot around the gut, and it helped her dramatically. She had a type of cancer that was extremely aggressive form where it would almost double in size every day. But when she was going through the treatment, they said, that this is sort of, it's not going to get better, and she actually implemented all this stuff, and they were in shock that it was actually shrinking. I mean, obviously in the end it was so aggressive that it did get it, but it was something where it did dramatically help, and I felt like it improved her quality of life with all the nutrition and everything she was doing. And you even saw in her skin, even while going through treatments, her skin looked better. She was more vibrant and stuff like that when she was well enough. And it was really, it put a huge emphasis on health to me, because after that I became incredibly healthy in terms of what I did, did lots of juices, lots of just health-based stuff. And I felt, my skin and everything, I was more vibrant. I was, a lot better then. So I think it's something that's so important, but bodybuilding, sometimes it gets put down to macros, protein, carbs, fats.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to hear about your partner. That's
no, that is many years ago. So it's something a long time ago.
You know what? The message that you just gave is a good one, because when I had kidney disease, that's how I really got focused on gut health. Because when your kidneys go, man, you wouldn't believe what happens to your gut health. It's horrible. All your health in general. And for me, I also had a miraculous, refractory period where like my kidneys actually got better, which never happens. And because of that, it was really neat, because my team really wondered what was up. And when you're sick, it's a great testament to see how things work, because you're already on the brink of collapse, right? So when you see something change for the better, you see it huge. It's very clear. And that's why, I learned pretty quickly that if your gut health isn't in check, your inflammation is going to be high no matter what. And you're going to have some systemic inflammation problems. And if inflammation's high and you're battling anything, whether it's recovery from a training session or cancer, you're not going to be in a good, environment to be fighting whatever that is. So 100%.
Yeah. So it's absolutely incredible. But guys, we've been on here for over an hour, and Antoine, you're a week out from the Olympia. So man, shout out to you for jumping on for this long. And you're like, I interviewed Urs the other day, and he was like so vibrant and happy and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, dude, how are you doing that? That close and being in such great condition? But dude, credit to you for being so vibrant this far out from the Olympia. But
no, I had a good day today. Yesterday, I was more tired.
Oh, I'm glad we did today.
I spent my whole evening on the bed. I watched 2 movies in a row. I was like waiting for my next meal. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then I was like making concoction with Zevia, and then like ice and a fucking yellow mayor. Tried to make a little crystal light in it to make it flavor. I was like trying to find a way to escape the hunger. And then every time this happens, I tell myself there's no matter how many packs of gums I can chew, which I don't chew because I'm an extremist. I would go through a pack in one sitting.
Yeah.
Or ZBOs I drink, or diet drinks I drink. I'm not gonna remove this uncomfortability, so I just gotta fucking sit there in it and wait, right? So yesterday I had to deal with that, but today for some reason, I think because I slept more, I went to bed earlier, and because sometimes I get up and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stay up because I'm already up. But sometimes I need to force myself, because you're always eager to start your day in prep, which is something that's like different in the off season, because you have to force yourself to get up sometimes. In prep, I'm ready to eat and do my cardio. So sometimes I wake up too early, so I would force myself back to bed, and that extra hour or two I get makes a big difference. So yeah, today I had a good day. Yesterday I would have been like, all right, 30 minutes, Xavier, I gotta eat.
Yeah, I got to be going in 30. Yeah, for sure. And man, I would understand that as well, because I've obviously been through it, the preps and all that sort of stuff. And you forget until you're back in it how brutal it can be. But it's yeah, I always try to remember with guys that I'm interviewing and whatnot as well, because it's a brutal sport, and sometimes you don't know what that day is going to be, because sometimes you'll get a good sleep or you had a rest day the day before, and you wake up and you're like, I am ruined. Like, why am I so tired? So yeah, it's one of those things where it sort of hits you at different times. I remember this was quite a few years ago. I was pushing myself very hard during a prep, and I was 3 weeks out, and I'm like, just thinking like 3 weeks, that is so long for how I feel now. And I remember just sitting on the couch and being like, saying to my partner, I said, I can't fucking get up. I said, I can't fucking get up. I said, I have no energy to actually stand up off the couch. I'm like, fuck this. And I started getting teary, and she's like, just go lay down and then see how you are in an hour. And I lay down. I'm like, came out an hour later. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Like, 3 more weeks, I'm good. You know,
it's funny. Yeah, sometimes I'm on my computer here, and I'm like, my fiance's over there. The kitchen's right there. I'm like, oh, Taylor, can you get like my phone or a can of Zevia or something? But it's like the fridge, I can almost reach it right here.
Yeah, but you just have no energy.
Get it and come back. Yeah, so I know the feeling, but she's great. I don't know what she's doing right now.
Doing posing 5 hours a week will probably make you feel like that as well. So doing 5 hours of posing a week will probably make you feel like that too. So I totally understand.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm good during the first part of the day. I'm good. Then when everything is done, I crash. I'm just like done.
Yeah, I bet.
Like after this, I'll be useless.
Do you want to promote anything? Obviously, HD Muscle for both of you guys. But is there anything else you guys want to promote as well and shout out or anything?
I know that Dwayne right here is actually a company called Vibe Mushrooms, and I've been using some of these products. Dwayne, you want to give a little 2 minutes on that?
Yeah, so we launched a functional mushroom company, I think in June or July this year. And it's the only pharma grade functional mushroom company out there right now. We spent a lot of time getting, all the proper ingredients put together, but also the extraction. So I recommend anybody out there that's looking to, improve performance, inflammation, anything like that, to reach out to me, reach out to Vibe Mushrooms, because it's been a big part of helping Antoine out this part of the prep, and his blood pressure's been awesome. Inflammation's been great. Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? I actually used to do a lot of mushroom, I don't know if they were extracts or like powders and stuff like that, because I used to get a really good discount at a health store here in Australia, and it was like 60% off or something. So I was doing a ton of those. I was doing all of them, you know what I mean? Like, and I was sort of like Antoine in a way, like that obsessive, like have to do everything sort of thing. So I was, combining all the different mushrooms. Like I had like 7 different packs, and I was taking all the little bits out, which was a pain in the ass, but that correlates with where like the best I've been in terms of business and all that sort of stuff. Cause I was taking the ones that obviously help the cognitive function and
some lion's mane, cordyceps, these kind of things. Yeah.
I actually had some turkey tail growing in my backyard on the base of a tree stump. But unfortunately it got sprayed like the day before, like with stuff to kill it. Unfortunately. Shit. So I was devastated, but it's cool, man. And I definitely have to talk to you and about that, because it's something I've actually looked into just recently, the last few days, and want to get back into doing some of the mushroom extracts and things like that. So we'll definitely have to talk.
Yeah, shoot me a DM. Also, I've got a course coming up with Prescript. It's a nutrition course. It's going to be starting in January. So check out Prescript's site. They've got an Instagram there, or go on my page at DRDN Jackson, and you can check it out there.
Send me all those links. I'll put the links to those in the description below. There'll be links to both your social medias, your YouTube channel, Antoine, and if you have a YouTube channel, whatever you guys have.
I'll hook you guys up with all that. And for me, it's pretty simple. avbodybuilding.com. I got my own merch now. avbodybuilding.com. Awesome. That's my own stuff. And I just started that with my fiance. It's a little our own little project here. But other than that, hdmuscle.com, the best supplements. ironbullstrength.com, the best equipment for training, straps, wraps, belts. And riderwear.com, of course, with the shoes and the apparel from the gym. And Team HD, the best team of coaches. Pure Muscle and Fitness, the best gym. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I could say is the best, because that's what I try to do, surround myself with the best shit so I can give the best results. So I think that's about it.
Dude, I absolutely love it. Really enjoyed having you both on, and it was, I didn't really plan much for this, but I think it came out awesome. I think people really enjoy this as part of the Olympia series. And if people want to tune into the rest of the Olympia series on Desktop Bodybuilding. They can check it out now on the main channel page. And if people are having, sorry, you go.
Yeah. Also, I got my YouTube channel, right? And I've been uploading some videos more constantly lately. And I did the Olympia prep series. So youtube.com/Antoine Vaillant. But sometimes in the comments, I pop in and communicate with you guys and your followers. So
you do, man. I appreciate that. I forgot to mention it.
Yeah. So I pop in sometimes when I see you live and I just talk a little bit and say funny stuff. But yeah, so I've been having a channel for a long time, so you guys should check it out. You know, all your subscribers could maybe go on my channel and vice versa, and subscribe. And if you guys want to support and just like the content, but other than that, thanks Xavier for having us on. And yeah,
it's honestly a pleasure, and definitely want to do this again with you, Antoine, and you, Dr. Dwayne, as well. Whether individual ones in the future or together again, I definitely want to tee it up with you guys because I think it's been awesome, and like I said, it's beneficial for the listeners, and it's cool that guys like you, teams like HD Muscle, all that sort of stuff, are focused on not only the performance side of things but also the health side of things, which I think more people have an interest in now because of what we've seen in bodybuilding and the recent passings and all that sort of stuff. So I think you guys are doing it right. I love to see it. And like I said, everyone link up with these guys' content. And if you guys do want to check out more interviews and all that sort of stuff on Desktop Bodybuilding, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell button, do it with these guys too, and HD Muscle and Dr. Dwayne. And that's it for this episode for the Desktop Bodybuilding. Myself, Xavier Wills, Dr. Dwayne Jackson, and Antoine Vaillant. 1 week out of 2022 Mr. Olympia. We are out.